Welcome to this edition of Stuff You Don't Usually See, where you get to see behind the scenes of us recording a local radio spot. I'm your host, Lacey Lively, and today my guest is Jennifer Nations. She is our Water Resource Coordinator for City of College Station. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So what are we going to be talking about today for radio?
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is our annual drinking water quality report. It's out in the world. It's online. These things predate the internet. The requirement has been around long enough that it kind of predates internet. So it's only been in the past couple of years that utilities have been able to just distribute it electronically, which is nice.
Okay, and then I'm guessing with the temperatures, how have they been? Maybe water usage or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention was our record water demand that we just keep doing, and we don't want to.
Awesome. Are you ready for radio now?
Yes.
All right. Good morning. This is Lacey Lively with the City of College Station. Today, my guest is Jennifer Nations. She's our Water Resource Coordinator for the City of College Station. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So I know that what just hit online is our water quality report. Can you talk about the importance of that and what folks need to know?
Yeah. So we're distributing it electronically for the, just totally paperless electronically, even though I have it on paper here. But, for the second year in a row, we used to do postcards. And before that, we would do a printed report. And every year, people would call and say, why are you spending money on this? And I think we should spend money on it because it's an important document. But anyway, and they would say, please remove me from your mailing list. And, the answer to that is well, that's about as effective as getting removed from the IRS's mailing list. It's not going to happen. These reports have to go out to every bill-paying water customer, and then really everybody who drinks the water should be, or just uses the water, should be aware of it. But the requirement has been around since, I think, 1998. So that kind of predates internet and all that stuff. So they had to be printed and mailed. Almost all of the language in there is verbatim from the Environmental Protection Agency or Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So people would get this thing in the mail and they would I don't know what it is. I'm going to throw it away. And then, or they would, yell about us wasting resources. So a couple of years ago, the EPA put together a rule change that allowed, as long as it's a direct link, people, they can't go to the website and then click another link and click another. If they click one link and the report pops up, then that counts as direct delivery of the report. So our wonderful utility billing office, I asked them and they said, yeah, you can just put a box on the utility bill. And so it says, on the latest utility bill, it says where to go to find our report.
And so you go to cstx.gov/water report, and it'll directly pull up the PDF.
Yes.
And so what kind of stuff do you have to test on, and what does the report say?
So this lists everything that we tested for and that we found. So the other question that we get every year is, why didn't you put arsenic in the report? Or why isn't cryptosporidium or chromium or something in the report? And the answer is because we tested for those things, but we didn't detect them.
Okay, that's a great point.
Yeah, and then so there's, we start off with, we've got our the daily stuff that we test for, like the bacteriological water quality. We've got that in there. We've got our lead and copper sampling, which is a real hot topic for people. They want to know, does our drinking water have lead in it or not? Ours does not. It's well below the regulated levels. And then we look at our disinfectant. So we add some chlorine to the drinking water so that there's no germs in it that might make us sick. But then the flip side of that is sometimes we get disinfection byproducts that we don't want to have too much of. So we've got that report in there as well. And then there's just some naturally occurring contaminants, some things in the water that are not hydrogen or oxygen. So we've got reporting on that. There's a lot of big words in here. I especially love the last table here with the unregulated contaminants. Monobromoacetic acid, dibromoacetic acid. I know you look at that and it's
I can't even say
really
them.
scary, but there's a lot of NDs in this table, meaning not detected. And those are just the individual components of the disinfection byproducts. And by themselves, they don't have a regulated limit, but together they do. So,
and basically all this report is saying is that once again, Water Services has provided high quality drinking water. There is nothing wrong with their drinking water.
Yeah.
but this report proves that, and you have to. It's required by state law or national law or both.
National, yeah,
national law.
Federal, yeah. So it's required by federal law, and then the EPA tells Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, you're going to implement this law on the state level. So yeah, they can just look at the violation column, go throughout the report, violation YN, and we have all N, no violations.
Nope.
So yeah, even though I know our water gets dragged and people like to complain about the taste of it and stuff, but you can see the good thing about this report is that it definitely lists the source of the water, things that might be in source water, water sources all over the country, where they might pick up some contaminants from. Source water is untreated, so even though there's this big long list of all the things that water may pick up, it's going to be treated before we drink it. And then it also explains, a lot of people will drink bottled water because they think that that's better, and it's not necessarily better. It's its own. Bottled water is a food product regulated by the FDA. Drinking water is regulated by the EPA. So it's
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a totally different animal, and most bottled water comes from municipal water systems anyway. So it's just like you can pay $2 and change to get it out of the tap, or you can pay, $5 for a little 12-ounce bottle.
Right. So for you at home that's listening, you can go to cstx.gov/water report to get the report that we're talking about. And I feel like this is a good segue to talk about, where does our water come from? Where does College Station water come from?
So College Station's water comes from the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer. We're totally on groundwater. So that means that we have lots of water. There's lots of water in the ground, but sometimes we're kind of limited on how quickly we can get it into our distribution system in the summer. But we also have to make sure that water stays in the ground for future generations. And so it's a relatively drought-proof water source, but we still don't want to pump too much of it.
So this is where you step in. You're helping us conserve water. Can you give us some of those tips, especially with the temperatures as high as they've been?
Yeah, we're hitting triple digits, and we had a record-breaking May for water production. We pumped, I think, well over 400 million gallons of water, that's a lot. But if you look around town, like the first thing to do is check your irrigation system. I visited with a customer this week. I did an irrigation checkup, and they had a really high bill. Well, they had 4 start times on their controller. So they thought they were watering only the number of minutes that they saw. And I said, no, you're watering 4 times as much as you think you are. And other times people will think that they're watering 2 days a week, but then when they go out and look, they're watering 4 days a week. So, and our lawns can actually get by with a lot less water than we think they do. So that's the first thing to look at, is on a residential basis, just look at your irrigation usage. Commercial businesses, it's a little bit harder to do because sometimes that might be managed by somebody, at corporate headquarters or something. But, water conservation is a good way for a commercial business to save on their bottom line too, cut expenses.
And so you also have a website and a weekly email, which is through Brazos Valley Water Smart. So if you're curious and you all even break down the certain type of irrigation heads, so like rotators or drip, things like that, where it'll tell you how long to run it for. So like 40 minutes twice a week or once a week. And it's dependent on rain gauges.
Yeah.
Is that so weather stations across town, and then you'll put in your address for this is all Brazos Valley residents.
Right.
And you can get that. And I love the email. I was just telling Jennifer before we started live that it's really helped me figure out what to run times and how often. And my stuff's still alive.
Yeah.
And my water bill's lowered. So definitely that's Brazos Valley Water Smart.
Yeah, bvwatersmart.tamu.edu. And it's the TAMU because it's a partnership with, and so this is a really great example of us taking advantages of the resources in the from the university across the street. We're working with researchers at A&M to develop irrigation recommendations, and then the Groundwater Conservation District also provides funding for all of the technical part of it. So because they understand that it's important to
and it's free.
And it's free.
It's a free
it's
weekly
a free service, free weekly
email.
service. And the really cool thing too is that sometimes in the summer, like our recent rains, I think my mom, who lives in Bryan, she got a lot of rain. I was at my church in downtown Bryan, and it was pouring rain there. And I came back to my house in South College Station, and the sidewalks were just dry. So people's irrigation needs are going to change based on the rainfall, and that's what the website's going to do. It's going to tell somebody who lives in North Bryan that they maybe don't need to water this week, but somebody who lives in South College Station does.
And that was the thing. I got an update email. So we had our regular one, and then it was update like, hey, you got a lot of rain in your area. You need to, check, change it, which I appreciate that because how frustrating it is that like you set your irrigation and then it randomly rains. We had some random storms pop up, and I'm like, darn it. But yeah. So you talked about the irrigation checkup. Can you talk a little bit about that and the service you provide?
Yeah. So what I do is I meet with the customers. I'll check the meter first, so that sometimes people don't know where their water meter is. So that's the first education tip. It's kind of a train the trainer type thing. I want them to leave with the skills to be able to do what I just did, like anytime they want. We read the meter, then I go into the garage, I look at the irrigation controller and note what their current settings are. Then we'll run the zone. We'll run the system for like 2 or 3 minutes per zone. And we look for any broken heads. We look at areas that are getting too much water, not enough water. And then I'll go back and look at their programming, and I'll say, well, you're watering too much. Let's back it off. Or this zone isn't getting enough water. Let's increase the water over here and then decrease it over here. And then I can also figure out, if they have 5 zones and I ran each zone for 3 minutes, then I can do the math and get an average flow rate in terms of gallons per minute for their system. So that's when... A lot of times that's when the connection really gets made because, we'll look at, your system's using 15 gallons a minute and you're watering, for 3 hours a week. And they go,
that's a lot of water.
It's, a gallon milk jug, right? So 15 of those every minute. And if it takes like 120 minutes to run through all of your zones, then that's a lot of water.
So it's for College Station utility customers, water customers, and how do you sign up?
Customers. Really, they can just send an email to jnations@cstx.gov, and then we have the form on our website. I get a lot of requests that come through the form on the website. So that's good to have. Sometimes people just need information about, they just moved into their house and they don't know how to operate their system. Other times they get a high bill. I would really like to get the high bill customers to contact me. Maybe they don't notice that they have a high bill or something, or they think, sometimes people just look at the bottom line on the bill and they go, oh, my light bill was expensive, but really it was the water usage that drove their bill up. So if you're using like over 50,000 gallons a month, you need an irrigation checkup.
Come talk to me.
Come talk to me. I'll fix you up.
And that online form mentioned is cstx.gov/water. I'm like full of all these random URLs.
Yeah, that's great.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about today?
Just, stay cool, stay hydrated. We can drink, we can stay hydrated safely from and inexpensively right from our tap. And if you have any questions about it, you can just go look and see what's in the water, what's not in the water. And my name and phone number and everything is in the report, and our main number is in the report. Our dispatch number is in the report. Anytime somebody sees a leak, we want people to report that. Even if a lot of times in the summer, what gets reported as leaks is just irrigation runoff, but then we can make contact with that customer and say, hey, you got something going on here. But we definitely want people to use that dispatch number to report any issues with their water, because even though you have to leave a message with your name and phone number and address, the dispatcher logs that, they let water services know, and then we log it, we have the address, and then we send a crew out to investigate. So then we can look at things like, oh, there was a leak reported here, or there was 5 discolored water calls over here, and
And so, 24-hour hotline, and that's for any utilities. If you see backing up of water, breaks, your utilities out, use that hotline, because there are physical people logging that and will be able to check your issue out. And also notify you back if you have questions,
right?
Or hey, we fixed it, but cstx.gov/water. And that's where we have all of our information that we talked about today if you're curious.
Yep.
And with that, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. And with that, that's stuff you don't usually see.
That was fun.
Last time I said something weird.